Hi, welcome back. This is lesson number 7 in our Learning to Stitch series with Sassy Jack Stitchery and YonderWays. We are using as our reference book the book from Jeanette Douglas Designs called Learning Stitches Sampler. And we're not actually stitching the sampler, we're just stitching, we're going through the blocks that she has in there and the specialty stitches, but we're not stitching the full block on banding. Now, of course, depending on how much linen or fabric you have, whether you have banding or you've taken your own linen and you may want to stitch the whole block, as long as you've got room to do that, that's okay. For me, I'm just doing enough to illustrate and learn the stitch, and then I'm moving on to the next one. So I'll let you decide. You just need to, make sure you've got enough room for all 15 lessons. And then if you wanted to do the beginning and the ending band, make sure you've got enough room for that. Now, I did change a little bit the location of documents. They're still where they were originally, but I also made them easier to access. They are on a page on our website called YonderWays. So if you go to Sassy Jack Stitchery and then you look for the tab called YonderWays, you'll find our different online courses listed there. And one of them is this Learning Stitches. And on that page, you'll have links to the beginning band that we designed for this, the ending band, and any other instructions that we need to put out there for you. So, we're on page 18 and 19 of the Learning Stitches Sampler book from Jeanette Douglas Designs. And I think most of you have this book. We do still have quite a few open orders for it. We're waiting for the next shipment to come in from Canada. So, if you're looking for your book and just watching the videos until you get that, hopefully that'll come in this week and we'll turn those around and get them right back out. Today is Memorial Day, just as a frame of reference. We're still on quarantine here in North Carolina to a large degree, and so it's a good day for me to come in and get some tutorials done for you. So I hope you enjoy this. This is a little bit different stitch. To make this stitch look really pretty, you need to use complementary colors. And if you're looking at the picture, it's called a Florentine Bargello stitch. And Florentine and Bargello are different names for the same thing. It's also called flame stitch. There's a lot of different ways just to do this long stitch to make it look different. And you'll see this version of it if you look back through really old tapestries and embroideries. You'll see this used pretty commonly. It's a beautiful stitch. We're going to use it with the same threads that we've been using, these single strand flower threads. If you've got sulky threads, that's fine. If you're using floss, that's also okay. So let's get started. You're going to have to follow along with the instructions on this one. It's got some placement of different stitches that are going to be a little challenging if you don't have your booklet. I'm going to use an away knot, and I'm just going to put it down here over the side. I'm going to start with the same 4 thread margin from the band above it and 1 thread from the side. So I'm going to count down 1, 2, 3, 4, and I'm over 1 thread from the side, which you can see. I'm going to follow Jeanette's instructions exactly this time. We're going to start where she started and follow along. This stitch is really beautiful. You may need to stitch this whole little block or some portion of it as she shows it. I'll probably stitch what she shows on page 19, which is really like 1, 2, 3 little bands of it, 3 little rows of it to get a good picture of how it flows. So we're going to start with the first stitch she starts. Now she denotes, you're going to look at page 19, each color with a different deepness of black and white, I guess. So different kind of shade on page 19. And so we're going to start with the first stitch, which actually goes over 4 threads. And again, as with all these stitches, you're counting threads. So I'm going to count over 1, 2, 3, 4, and I'm going to sink that first little leg. And I am using this, I call it a rectangle. I think it's called a square round or something like that on the Hardwick Manor hoop page. But we do have this one in stock. We're back ordered on the other small oval, but we do have this one. The next little stitch in that kind of medium gray tone comes right underneath where you started this one. And then it just comes over 2 threads. And so I'm going to count over 1, 2 threads. Okay. Now, the next part of this, you're going to skip down some threads. and we're going to kind of get the bottom part of this. So I'm going to skip down. If I look at page 19, I'm going to skip those white stitches, the white legs. 1, 2, 3. So I'm going to skip from where I ended 1, 2, 3, 4 threads. 3 stitches, 4 threads. So 1, 2, 3, 4. And I'm going to recount that for you just so that you can see it. Make sure that you've got that. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4 threads. Okay. And that gives us room for 1, 2, 3 stitches running through. This one, and again, it's the medium kind of gray. It goes over 2 threads. So it's a kind of a mirror of what's above it. And then underneath that, the next leg goes over 4 threads. So we're going to come down 1 thread, and this one covers 4 threads. It starts in the same place. 1, 2, 3, 4. So this stitch is a little bit more challenging because it's turned on its side. A lot of times Bargello is just done up and down vertically, and this one's a horizontal. And so it's just a different adjustment for your eyes, which it's a good exercise. So the next one, keeping with this color, you're going to come in 2 threads from where you started the last time. So that's where I was. I'm going to come in 1, 2 threads. And it's going to cover 4 threads. 1, 2, 3, 4. And you'll find that to be in keeping with most Bargello or Florentine, as 4 is a pretty typical number of coverage. And you'll see that there's another stitch, if you're looking at page 19, that picks up where that one ends and goes over another 4 threads. Let some come down a thread, and it comes in 2 threads. So from where the last one started, count in 1, 2, kind of starting in the middle, and again it covers 4 threads. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now we're going to start climbing back up. So it's going to pick up where this last one ended, or the stitch before ended, and it covers again 4 threads. 1, 2, 3, 4. Just make sure that you're keeping with the right color on the chart. All right, so from where that one began, you want to come in 2 threads. Again, very typical of a Bargello or Florentine, and cover 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So those little stitches that we did at the beginning were kind of compensating stitches. They weren't full Bargello. If you did this full stitch from beginning to end, it would always cover 4 threads. And so these first ones that we did right here were little compensating stitches. Okay. So the next one again comes out 2 threads and covers 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. And do it one more time or 2 more times. Come in 2 threads or over 2 threads, and then cover 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So you're really always counting off your last stitch. Now let's see how many we've got coming up in the angle. 1, 2, 3, 4 to the pointing part. Oh, I counted the wrong one. Counted the white one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 is the point. Now let me just show you what I did. So we are working on this kind of medium gray stitch right here. And we started with that because that was the first one that we started with. And so we did all these. We got down here. You can see the break between these 2 legs. They're always 4 threads. And then we started coming back up. Well, I wanted to see where the point was on this. So if I start at the bottom and I count up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, I know that's the outside point of this. And then we start to go back in, and it goes back in 4 till you get to the top. So that's what I was looking for. Now, then you've got this black stitch that surrounds it. You've got this white one in the middle and this really light gray one. So right now we're on this medium gray, and we're coming back up through here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And you see it always goes the same direction. You don't wish-wash around about which way you're going with this. It always goes the same direction. Okay. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4. All right, let's see where we are here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That was actually the last one, so that was the pointed part. So we need to now step in or back 2 threads. Now you're going to have a little partner down here on this side. So here's the little partner thread, and I'm going to be matching that. So I came back 2 threads, and I'm going to cover 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And I'm going to come back 2 threads. You can start to pick up the pattern in this, right? And then you cover 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then back 2 threads, and it covers 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And that's actually the last one in this little kind of pod. All right? Okay. So I could move around and jump down and do some more of this color, but I'm actually going to end this thread and pick up the next color so that you can kind of see the progression. And then we will come back and pick that thread up. Now, the other thing you can do is, if you are comfortable with it, sometimes when I'm doing bargella, I'll park the thread, meaning that, you know, I'll bring it over to the edge out of my way somewhere, and I'll bring it up here, and I'll take the needle off, and I'll just leave it hanging. And then when I need it again, I'll pick it back up, thread the needle again, and take it where I need it to, you know, keep stitching. So in this case, though, we're going to end it just so we don't get anything tangled. Okay, and that's my Y knot carrying all the way over there, which we'll get that taken care of too. Now, these stitches on the back are a little bit loose, so you don't want to distort anything, pull anything out of, you know, to where it's not tight where it's laying. All right. So I'm going to save that thread and come back to it. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and take care of this little Y knot and get it out of my way. He's kind of tucked up underneath some of those stitches already. Okay. So we're all cleaned up. I'm ready to go. Okay. So I'm just going to keep in, you know, the way that we've been going. My next color, I think has been, looks like red. So we will pick up red. We'll do the next part, and then we'll carry on from there. Okay, if you've not seen me do this thread trick, I'm sure you have if you've watched all these lessons. I just lay it on my non-dominant hand and kind of roll my finger and rub the needle at the same time to get it through there. Okay. Alrighty. So, if I look at this pattern book, the next part of this that I am going to do is going to be the inner part. So I'm going to just come right down over here and start right here, and I'm going to carry on with the inner part, which may not be the prettiest with this colors, but it'll be fine. You'll be able to see what I'm doing, which is the important thing. Okay, so to start, I think I'm going to do an away knot again, rather than running it under. I could run it under, but the stitches are so loose, I'd rather just kind of stitch over it, I think. Now, let's think about how to place this away knot. These stitches are long stitches going horizontally, so I'm actually going to place my away knot, down here. And that way, as I stitch, left to right, I'm going to stitch over it. So I'm going to start right underneath this stitch. I'm just going to start right underneath that. And if you're looking at your book, we're doing the white legs now. Okay. So this is a full stitch. It's a full 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And I'm going to actually come counterclockwise and come up and around so that you can kind of see the pattern. So I'm just starting in the same hole where that purple stitch ended. 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm covering 4 threads. And I'm going to work my way around the inside of this. And so I'm going to start right here. So I am coming up in a dirty hole. And sometimes I'm going down in a dirty hole. And, Bargello a lot of times is built bottom to top. This comes from the sides a little different, and I didn't really want to have you count to get into the center. You could have counted in and done the center, and then you're always building around it. Again, I'm covering 4 threads with that. I really wanted to stick with Jeanette's pattern and show you how it works. Okay, so this one is going to end right here where my needle is. It needs to start 4 threads back. 1, 2, 3, 4, which should also be 2 threads in from where this last stitch ended. But because there are 2 together, it's hard to see the beginning and the end there. So I wanted you to count it. 1, 2, 3, 4, and it is 4 threads long. Okay, and then this one you can just count in from where that one started. So you count in 1, 2 threads. 1, 2, 3, 4. So you're starting to see that, with the exception of any compensating stitches at the beginning or the end, it's always covering 4 threads. Now this one you're going to drop back to, because this stitch on the edge drops back to. 1, 2, 3, 4. When you get your Bargello pattern started, a lot of times, your muscle memory kind of takes over and you're not really doing so much counting. 1, 2, 3, 4. We're going to count here in the beginning just to make sure that we are always right. And then this one just fills in this gap, but it is 4 threads. You can see it. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, you can start to see it filling out. It's pretty. This one covers 4 threads. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then you're back here on the back margin. You still have that 1 thread from the side, and you're going to cover 4 threads. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, and then the last little guy in the center there is a compensating stitch. He just covers 2 threads. So if you had more linen, he would carry 2 threads further back, but he just covers 2 threads. He's compensating. Okay, isn't that pretty? So I hope you like the way this is coming together. I know it's a little bit tough to follow just because you're following colors in the book. But you'll get it. You'll get it. You just practice with it a little bit, and it's so worth it because it's so beautiful once you get it going. Okay, so I'm going to end this thread again, and we're going to pick up our next color. And you get a little more thread on the back, so it's a little easier to begin and end. Okay, my next color is going to be blue. I tell you what, this is kind of the center of this. And I can keep going in the center, or I can go out around the edge. And I want to do that center in green. So I'm going to use this green. And I'm going to do the little center in green. because I needed another color. And this was the color, one of the colors, you know, that I've been using on the other end of the sampler. And I have green eyes. And these things remind me of eyes or feathers. Peacock feathers is another way that this particular Bargello is often used, as peacock feathers, which are reminiscent of eyes. And so I'm going to put this one in the center. And we'll come back to blue. We'll get blue on the outer part. Okay. So I think I'm going to run it under on the back, because I think I've got enough I can do that with now. Sorry, did not mean to bump that camera. I don't know if you can hear that background noise. There's a day spa above us, and they're up there vacuuming. They're not open. They haven't been able to open through the whole pandemic, but they are, they vacuum every day. I don't know what they do up there with it being closed, but they vacuum every day. I think somebody likes to vacuum. I think they should come down here. We've got lots to keep them busy. Okay, so let's start at the outermost point, which is going to be that last little compensating stitch that we did. I'm going to come up right where he ended. Okay, and each of these stitches, each of these legs covers 4 threads. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, and you can go up or down. It doesn't really matter. You're going to cover the same distance. 1, 2, 3, 4. Maybe we should put blue in here. It looks a little weird. 1, 2, 3, 4. The colorway does. But you'll see the stitches, and that's important. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4. And I'm looking forward to seeing your posts. So I hope you guys keep posting for me to show me what you're doing. That's pretty. Okay, and that's the little center part for this one. Alrighty, so I'm going to end this thread. And now I'm going to pick up the blue. And now I'm going to be working the black one, the black stitch on page 19. I'm going to work that in the blue. So here's the threading again. You can tell I just kind of push it with my finger and roll the needle down. Okay. This one I think I am going to use in a Y knot. Let him get covered up. Waist away. Y knot is when you put it in the path of your stitching and you're going to stitch over it. Waist away is when you put it pretty far away and you are going to rethread your needle with it to end it later. Hopefully it'll end up being in a Y knot. We'll stitch over him and put him down here. Okay. Now, if you're looking at your book, you can just like actually follow down this outer edge here. And you can see that our next stitches are going to pick up right here. And so I'm going to literally come up underneath that stitch right there. So you can see where that is. This is a laying tool, by the way. And it's a compensating stitch, so it's only covering 2 threads. So 1, 2. And it's compensating because it's at the end of where your fabric is. Okay? And then right underneath that is a leg that has 4 threads. One, 2, 3, 4. Okay? And now we pick our pattern back up. And so you come in 2 threads from where that stitch started. So we started kind of here, but 1 thread up. Come in 1, 2, right there. Try to get this tighter. Okay, now we go. All right, so you're covering 4 threads. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, and then you come down 1 more and you come in 2. So from where you started the last one, you come in 2 threads. So you're kind of in the center of it. And again, you're going to cover 4 threads. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, if you're looking at your pattern, you could just keep going down in a diagonal, depending on how far you wanted to do this one. And you can just go straight up in a diagonal. And so I think we're going to go up because I want you to see this band. And we're just going to kind of keep centered around this little pretty little feather. We'll call it a feather that we made. Okay, so I'm starting 2 threads in, and I'm going to cover 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now I'm going up a diagonal. So basically, I'm starting at the end of this stitch on the row that I'm in, so the purple stitch. So I'm not really having to count where to start necessarily, but I do want to count the end. 1, 2, 3, 4. And so there's 2 ways to count. You can count over 4 threads, or you can count 2 threads out from where the thread below it is. You just need to make sure it's right. So I could come right here and count 1, 2. I don't tend to like to count that way. 1, 2, 3, 4. It's easier for me, and I find mistakes better if I just count the 4 threads. It takes me a millisecond to do it. So see, you're just following your pattern now. 1, 2, 3, 4. One, 2, 3, 4. One, 2, 3, 4. One, 2, 3, 4. Okay. Now here is where I could keep going up that direction, right? Because I know I'm going to fill this in, or I can stop and I can go back to the left. I have to do both either way. So I think I'm going to continue to follow this little design that we have. But if you're looking at your book, you can see that that one carries on up the diagonal. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now I'm coming back in the diagonal. And you can tell that if you can just make this infinite number of different looks aesthetically by changing the color of thread that you use. It's just a beautiful stitch, which I think is why it has had such longevity and carried through generations of embroideresses and embroiderers. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, now I'm at the top margin of this particular stitch. I am going to just run it under on the back and come back up this direction and carry this on. And then I'm probably going to run it under and carry it down here, because now you can see how the stitch is formed, right? And we're going to start building in these feathers in the other directions. So I'm going to run it under real quick. These stitches are kind of long and open on the back, so sorry about that. Didn't mean to bump the camera again. So you don't really want to have a lot of loose thread back there. There's already a lot of loose thread back there. Okay, so I want to continue to carry this little guy up this direction, right? So if you look at your pattern, you'll see that there's another stitch here that just covers 4 threads. 1, 2, 3, 4. So you basically start in the dirty hole of where the other one ended. And when these 2 threads are the same color, you might have trouble like I do seeing where it starts and ends. You can count from the other end. So I didn't count it for you on the fabric, but I counted in my head. From here, where this one ends, I counted back 2 threads. Now I'm going to go forward 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, now you see the pattern start to come back. And again, you're going to come out 2 threads and cover 4. Unless you're doing compensating, you're always covering 4 threads. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, isn't that pretty? So I am now going to run under coming down. I'm going to get right here and I'm going to go down. Okay, and build the other side of that out. This is a stitch that you can get carried away with and just do a bunch of. It's very meditative to me. I really enjoy Bargello a lot. I was working on a model last night for one of our Sassafras sampler that's coming out, Maple Tooth, that's actually going to be coming out in an online class, and it has some Bargello work on it, and I really enjoyed it. 1, 2, 3, 4. We've got a beautiful sampler from the 1700s that at some point we're going to get charted and get out, and it has a lot of Bargello on it. It's gorgeous. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so in that case, to figure out where the next stitch goes, you can count 2 in, 2 over, or you can count 4 threads from that side. 1, 2, 3, 4, because you know that the only place you've got compensating is on the edge, so everything else always covers 4 threads in here. 1, 2, 3, 4. So we're just building out the outline of our feather. And the interior, the feathers kind of change a little bit. Jeanette's got a great use of color here, so it'll be really pretty. 1, 2, 3, 4. This may be one that I do more repetitions than I've been doing, just because I like to see the change in the color. Or maybe I'll save it for the other end. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, this literally could carry on till I get to the edge of my fabric, because that's where it would stop. And maybe that's how I'll do it. Maybe that's how I'll find the end of this band. That'll make it end right about in here. Still be a little wider than the others, but you can do yours however you want. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, let's see. Little knot there. Where we are. If I look at the pattern and I count on the pattern, how far until I need to start going back up, and it should be parallel with this one. She might have 1 or 2 more stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So there should be, from this middle point here, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, so if we look at this guy, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 to reach the center. So we need to have 8 coming down this way. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So we want 1 more, and then we can start to go back up. We can start the journey up. So I'm going to come in 2 threads, and then I'm going to cover 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, I should be able to start going back up. Let's count it and make sure. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yes, that's good. Okay. So now we start the journey over, and you'll notice that I'm always going with my stitches left to right. You always want to go the same direction. Like, you don't want to mishmash back and forth. And the reason for that is because it changes the structure of the stitch on the back, which will ultimately change how it looks on the front to some degree. And so you just don't want to do that. 1, 2, 3, 4. Bargello is, in fact, I'll insert some pictures in this one. Bargello is a stitch that's often used as a furniture covering too. 1, 2, 3, 4. And it's just beautiful. And I've seen some fantastic exhibits of Bargello work. Joyce Paycheck is an embroiderist and a teacher who's done some amazing things with Bargello work. And I had the chance to meet her one time. I wanted to take a class from her and just could never get over there because of my work responsibilities. She was teaching in London. I think I might be wrong, but I think she's an American. 1, 2, 3, 4. But I did see an exhibit of her furniture in a museum that was just stunning. Okay, so here, remember, we're kind of at a cross point here. We've got one more stitch where we could turn and go back that way, or we could keep going up this way. We'll turn and go back this way just so you can see the pattern again, and then we'll come up this way. But I'm going to count it. And it should be 8 going that way too. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So we need one more. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4. All right, now I'm going to go back and finish up the feather. So you're dropping back 2 threads, and then you're counting over 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, and I'm dropping back 2 threads and count over 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Back 2 threads and count over 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. All right, and that puts us at the top of our design. So see these two in the same. So these, you don't have a full little feather here. You don't have a full feather here. You'll have full feathers in here, and we'll have a full feather. I think I'm going to do a full feather at the bottom. But when you see this design in use, it's filled out. It's not like you stop right here. Like if you had more, let's say you were going to cover a footstool or a chair, you wouldn't stop your feather here. You would carry it out with compensating stitches. So it always takes up all the room, and it's just a really beautiful, beautiful stitch. So I'm going to run back down, and then I'm going to come up and finish it that way. Then I'm going to come over and go back down that way. Okay. Alrighty. So you start where you've already got a thread in that hole, and you count over 4 threads. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. And 1, 2, 3, 4. And you come out to 1, 2, 3, 4. Ooh, caught something there. I got my needle through my thread. That's the way to make a knot. Okay, so I'm at the upper boundary of the design again. I'm going to run through and then I'm going to bring it down here. Okay. I'm having a lot of trouble. Ah. Okay. Okay. All right. So to come back down this diagonal, you're going to start and carry on this version of it. 1, 2, 3, 4. And your pattern book will help you with this. 1, 2, 3, 4. And it should be very helpful for you to know that it's always covers 4 threads unless it's at the edge, the left or the right edge. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then it's compensating. One, two, three, 4. One, two, three, 4. Now that ends right with the 1 thread margin on the left hand side, which is exactly what I want. So that's the end of that. I do have to do compensating stitches though, because this little pattern goes all the way over. So from here I'm going to count in 2 threads, which put me right in the middle, but I'm not going to go over 4. I'm just going to go over 2 and end that thread. Okay, so we have reached as far as we can go with this thread this way, and we still want to keep that 1 thread margin. We now need to be coming down through here. So rather than trying to count that and figure that out, I'm going to either end the thread or take it back up and under and start back right here. Okay, so we're back. So I'm going to start right here underneath this one, and I'm going to carry that pattern down to the edge. 1, 2, 3, 4. Come in 2 threads and count over 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. One, 2, 3, 4. So this is a pretty easy stitch, except for, you know, just the pattern, because it's just a straight stitch. 1, 2, 3, 4. But Bargello, I feel like, is one of the more beautiful stitches. You can just do so much with it. Or Florentine, same thing. 1, 2, 3, 4. One, 2, 3, 4. Now, at this point, we can start going back up and finish that one up, or we can go down to the edge. If we go down to the edge, you'll have like 3.5 rows of Florentine. And if you go back up, you'll have, 3 rows. And I'm going to keep to my 3 rows. So I'm going to go back up. So I'm going to come in 2 threads and out 2 threads. Sorry, in 2 threads and out 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, out 2 from the end, either way you want to count it. One, 2, 3, 4. And you see there's lots of paths that you can take with this stitch and still come out the same. You just need to make sure that your counting is always the same. 4 threads. unless you're at a margin. But you've got two, one on the left and one on the right, really. Okay. So we almost had a whole feather there, but not quite. All right. So that's going to give me 1, 2, kind of 3 right here. So I think I will come back out and finish that one up. So I'm going to track back under down below and come down and finish that little feather. Not in there. Okay. Okay. There's a little knot in my thread there, but I'm just going to keep carrying it through and bury it on the back. It's not worth ending and restarting. You can't really see it. I can just feel it. And if you're wondering why I'm holding this hoop weird, I'm holding it to where you can see it on the camera, so you can hold your hoop however is comfortable for you. I like to keep my hand on the back so that I can feel what's going on back there. Like I can feel the little knot back there right now. He is right there where he needs to be, so we're going to leave him on the back. 1, 2, 3, 4. All right, and that takes us just about to the end of that one. There we go. Okay, so this is going to be the size of my row. I'm going to stop everything right through here. You can make yours whatever you want. Again, it's just however much you measured out for each pattern to have on your band. That's how much room you have, and I think most of you had a pretty good amount of banding, so you should have plenty of room. And if you missed how to do that, you can go back to the beginning. One of the first videos, I think it might have been the second video, where we talked about how much room you need at the top and the bottom, and then taking the rest and dividing it by 15 to get your 15 spots for your banding. And we had a little red, I had a little red stitch on mine to show the depth of each of the sizes, to show you how to do that. So if you missed that, go back and check that out, and then you'll know how much room to have. Okay, so for this, I'm going to go fill in, and I'm going to use the colors that we talked about, ones that I've been using, and I'm going to follow the pattern in the book. I'm not going to make you watch all that, or it'll make the video crazy long, but just remember that each of these stitches are over 4. And, you just need to establish your pattern. Like I could have started at the beginning and came down through there, and that would have told me where I wanted to stop. The others are going to weave back and forth, and you're just going to follow the pattern on page 19 to get that going. So I'm probably going to take this blue thread, and I'm going to finish out the outer. This is the main outside of each of these patterns, and I'm going to finish the outside of each of these, and then I'm going to come back in and fill it in with the other colors. You can do that, or you can do something different, but that's certainly an easy path to do. So I'm going to do that, and I will meet you back here. Okay, I just want to kind of show you this. I got the little outline done. This is a 21 count. Most of you are on 28 count banding, or you may be on a piece of linen, or you may be on a different banding that you got somewhere else. I just want to talk through a few things because it gets a little tricky when you're not just going until you run out of thread. So we all started in the same place here. And, I made this first feather so that you could see the outline, and I made 1 or 2 of the others. You could, take this diagonal from the top till you reach the edge of your fabric, kind of like I did, and that's your stopping point. If you do that, then you can come back and you can take this other diagonal down. Then you can you feed off that. Then you can take the others up till you run out of room. Now, I made sure that I stopped along the same line on the bottom, and I want you to notice that it's because we didn't start like right in the center of a feather. You're not going to end in the center of a feather. So these two sides are not going to end symmetrical, right? This one, you've almost got a full, diagonal diamond, but not quite. This one, got a little more. I think this one is at the bottom, the pointy part, the bottom or the flat part of the diamond, and you would start going back up on this one. So it gets a little tricky to count. So I just want to point out that from the flat part of the diamond to the pointy end of the diamond, each of the 4 sides, you have 8 stitches. So let's count them together. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That's the flat part right there, the pointy part. And that's where the next one starts. So let's do it on this one up here just to prove that we're the same. So this is the pointy part of this feather. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That's the pointy part. These won't count 8 because you didn't get all the way to the pointy part. Okay. Let's count this one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay. This one is going to count 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yours again could be different depending on where the width of your band and where you stopped. But just so that you understand, because it gets a little tough when you're just looking at the pattern. Different people perceive things different ways. Is that, on this one that you're stitching, each leg of your diamond is 8 threads. Okay, 8 stitches. From pointy part to flat part, 8 stitches of a full diamond. But you've got lots of compensating ones that aren't. Okay, so get this first little bit laid in here, and then, if you're going to count down till you get, 8 on the diagonal there. You could come back up and finish out, or you can come down and finish out. But if you start trying to count on these ones that are partials, it's going to get a little confusing. So I would recommend that you get your first one laid in there and then come to your stopping point. Like maybe start right here, whether you're on 21 or 28, if you started where I did, and bring that all the way down to the corner. Now, in practice, when you're doing this in practice on your real piece, or wherever you put it, wherever you use it, you're really just filling in. It's a filling stitch. And so you would just go till you ran out of room. It's not like here where we're capturing a portion of it. And so it wouldn't be as hard to kind of follow the pattern, because you would just stitch until you got to the edge like this and you couldn't stitch anymore. And that's the way Bargello typically works. But on this little band sampler, you have to pick a stopping point, and that makes it a little tougher. So, just be aware that you've got, on a full diamond on this, it's got 8 stitches to the side. Okay. But you don't have a lot of fulls. You've got 1, 2, 3 full diamonds. That's really it on this 21 count. On 28 count, you're probably going to have 4, because I think you'd finish this one out. So you'd probably have, well, that one's not full. I counted it, but it's not. It's missing some. So I just have 2 full diamonds, really. So just be aware of that. It's a beautiful stitch. It's a filling stitch. It's not hard to do. It's very meditative and very therapeutic. Just don't get hung up on, the pattern. Kind of start on your diagonal here, bring it down to the edge, and then count off that, right? Start this one, bring it down to where you are going to be level with that, and stop. And just kind of do the same with these others. You kind of have to find your point, though, so you have to build each little diamond individually. So follow the pattern in the book, follow this, and I think you'll be okay. I'll be back, and I'll show you what it looks like finished. Okay, so I realized something as I was stitching through this that I wanted to bring back to you. There are actually two patterns in the book for this. There's a pattern on page 18 and a pattern on page 19. Normally they are the same, but in this particular stitch, there are two different sizes of the diamonds. And so we started out from the outer left edge, and we stitched our first little, I'm going to call it a feather or a diamond. And then I went and I stitched the outlines of the rest of the diamonds. And I told you that each of the outer edges of the largest part of the diamond is 8 stitches, full, if you had a full one. And that is consistent with the pattern on page 18. The pattern on page 19 actually is a little different. And so I would encourage you to use the pattern on page 18 because it's symmetrical, and that's going to be easier for you to learn. The pattern on page 19, the inner diamonds are a little bit smaller, and so it's not as easy for you to count. So my recommendation is that you start the way that we did. You get the outline of your first little feather or diamond, and then you take up the outer edge and you bring it down to the edge of your fabric. And then you do the same thing with the outer edge here. You bring it down, but you stop to match so that your ending spot is the same all the way across. And you build off these diamonds with the outer color and get yourself settled. And for the full diamonds, the ones where you have a full diamond, you're going to have 8 stitches on each side of that diamond. Okay? And the ones that aren't full, for the side that's full, you're going to have 8 stitches on each side. That'll give you a symmetrical Florentine stitch or Bargello stitch. And really, when it's, a lot of times it's called Florentine when it's in this kind of diamond shape. And Jeanette even calls it a traditional Florentine, which is true. I've seen it done this way many, many times. So, a little bit of a divergence. You just need to pick a pattern, either page 18 or page 19, and follow it, and you'll be fine. I did page 18 because it's symmetrical. Now, you'll notice on page 18 that Jeanette switches the inner 2 colors. So what I've done here are the outer 2 colors. And then I'll go back and I'll do the inner 2 colors. So in some she has, what for me is red and then green, and then she might have what for me would be green and then red. And you'll pick your own colors. But I'm going to finish mine out, and I'm going to alternate them like that too. So I think I'll do the red and green here. And then on these 2, I'll switch it and do the green and red here. So just wanted you to be aware that you've got 2 choices for patterns. And there is a subtle difference. It's kind of, for me, it was hard to discern. You really have to look at it for a minute and count. And you can kind of see it when you look at the, when you count the colors. But I would encourage you to do the one on page 18 because it's symmetrical. If you want to do 19, just know that you're going to have, for example, this second row of your little diamonds will be smaller. They'll be smaller diamonds. So it gets a little tough to count when you're learning. So I'll leave that to you to decide what you want to do, but I wanted to point it out. I'll come back to you and show you the finished version of this now. Okay, so you saw the finished design on the other side, and we talked about the pattern. I'm going to do the same pattern on the other end of the banding like I've been doing with the other stitches. I'm going to use the sulky threads for that, and I've picked 4 out of what I'd already pulled. So we've already used all of these. These 2 in the center here, the gray and the red, came from the beginning band with the squirrel. And then these 2 guys on either end we've used for some of the other stitches. In fact, we used them for the modified Parisian right here. So this is a sulky pearl number 12. It'll look great on your 28 count. It's great to use on 32 count, 30 count. On this 21 count, it's a little bit thin for coverage. You can see the flower thread above it covers a lot better. But we're going to use it for illustration purposes. And I'm still going to use the pattern on page 18, which is, 8 stitches to each edge of the diamond. And I'm going to start with this variegated color because I'm still going to flip the 2 inner colors, which are going to be these 2. But I'm going to use this for the main outer edge because I want a neutral to be between these two. Since this is variegated, I want this gray in there so that whether it's red, it'll look good with it, or whether it's this variegated, it'll go okay with it. And this gray goes well with this. So I'm actually going to start in a little bit different spot than what Jeanette did. Now that we've practiced and you've done the other stitch, you can kind of see the challenges with starting in the middle. So I'm going to start with a half of a diamond. So my first stitch, actually, I came down 4 threads from the band above it, which is consistent with what we've been doing. And I put the flat stitch of the diamond in first. And so I used this variegated thread. And I put the flat stitch of the diamond. So if you look at your pattern, or if you look at the other end of the banding, let me see if I can get it up here for you. I am starting on a full diamond. I'm going to be doing this outer edge first, and I'm starting with this flat stitch that's right here. And so basically I'm going to have exactly half of a diamond over here on the edge instead of this bigger. It probably won't be as aesthetically pleasing to the eye because it's kind of nice to see almost a full stitch there. And I think that's probably why Jeanette did that. But it'll be easier for us to count it out. So that's where I'm starting. I'm going to go ahead and work on this just for a minute with you, and then I'll jump out and come back. Okay, so the first stitch covered 4, so I came down 4 threads, I came up right here, and I covered 4 threads with the first stitch, which means that the next stitch, you're going to cover 2 threads, which would be that one that goes to the outside, and you're going to cover 4 threads coming back this way. So I've done the 2 threads. Now I'm going to do the 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. And now from here on out, we really are just 4 threads. So this was a little compensating stitch. So you come in 2 threads, then you cover 4. And that's the way this Bargello has worked. 1, 2, 3, 4. And I'm going to come in 2 threads and cover 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And I'm still going to make this leg be 8 stitches long. 1, 2, 3, 4. And 2 and over 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And 2. Let's see how many we've got. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So this is 7. And each stitch covers 4 threads. And 2. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. And that should be our 8. Let's count it and see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay. So that is one side of a diamond. Now, just so that I have myself set, I'm actually going to come back this way and get that done. Okay. You could carry on, and if you wanted to do a whole run, you'd carry on until you hit the edge here. All right. Okay. Because once you get the first one set, then you can count off of it, and your pattern is kind of set. 1, 2, 3, 4. You can start to see the variegation in this thread come through. It's really pretty. Okay, and I did keep my 1 thread margin on the left edge. And so we consistently will end there. Okay, now I'm going to count this one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, So that is, and I need to put the last, actually that is, so there's a little compensating stitch right here that just covers 2 threads. So we need to put that in there. Okay. So that's exactly half of the little diamond. And I may just keep mine this width on this. I think it's really pretty, and I think it'll be beautiful to do a lot of them. But just for, I don't know, we'll see how I go. I may keep it small like that, or I may do more. And you can do whatever you want, totally up to you. But I'm going to go ahead and stitch out this outline for what I need. I'll show some pictures of it. I'm not going to make you watch me stitch the whole thing. As you know, once you get your pattern, it's just 4 threads with a few compensating stitches on either end. You might have compensation here or over here. But all the rest of the stitches in here are going to be full 4 threads. Okay? So I'm going to carry on with this, and I will be right back. Hi, so we're back, and you can see this one is now finished. And I did use, the pattern on page 18 that we talked about. This was the main outside of the diamond, and you can see it's pretty visible here. And each section of the full diamond was 8 stitches, and you can see the pattern it made when I started it kind of right in the middle. Then there was the lighter gray in the middle, and then the other 2 colors. So I think that turned out really pretty. I also think this one was really very pretty with the blues and the greens and the purples. I think it was just worked out naturally, really pretty. So I hope you try this one. It's the traditional Florentine stitch. You really can make it any shape that you want to, but I would suggest that you follow the pattern just to learn it this time, and that you may already have some colors that you're using, or you may be changing them every time. This one will require, you could do 3 or 4. If you didn't switch the 2 insides, you could do it with 3 and just use the same color in the middle that you used right through here, or even this outer edge you could put in the middle would be pretty. So I'll let you play with that and figure out what you think about that. It is a very traditional stitch, a very beautiful stitch, and I hope you enjoyed the lesson. Don't get frustrated if you have trouble counting. I had to take mine out a few times here and there and redo it. So it's just a little bit tougher when you're doing something where you're trying to find the ending point versus just filling up the space. So don't beat yourself up about that. If you have to take it out and redo a little bit of it, just do that and consider it part of the learning process. And thanks for joining, and thanks for watching. I hope you've enjoyed it, and we look forward to the next one with you. Bye.